about, this book that I am asking all of you to purchase, you will realize that in 9th century, our scholars were treating mental health as a science itself, as a separate science than just coming to the Imam for help. He gives methods for helping people that are in mental difficulties, anxiety, nervousness, anger, all types of different feelings that we go through. How to treat that is something that Muslim physicians specialized in as far back as the 9th century, and we need to realize that that's just part of life, and we don't have to separate soul from the mind in order to treat the sicknesses of the mind. Now, that doesn't mean, obviously, that we don't use ruqya, we don't use these things as well, but it means we also add to that methods to keep the soul and the mind healthy. Okay? All right. So the point here to understand is, when we ask this question, I'm going to go back to the main question now. We're going to move into emotional intelligence right now in a minute, but I'm going to ask this question again. When you separate mind from the immaterial aspect of human existence, I'm going to say that again. When you separate the mind from the immaterial aspect of our existence, now when you ask this question, you're no longer asking a question that is related to the soul or the ruh. So when Wahib bin Munabbih says that the most aqal person, the most intelligent person is the Prophet ﷺ, and when Imam Ghazali says that the most intelligent person is the Prophet ﷺ, he's talking about a different type of intelligence that popular society today is not qualifying or quantifying, or was not quantifying as intelligence. And that's what leads us into the concept of emotional intelligence and moral intelligence, which we'll be talking about today. Okay, let's go forward now. If you take a look here, we're talking about aqal. Aqal in the Arabic language actually means to tie something up. It's like a knot. It's like a knot. And the reason, you can't see the picture, there's a picture of a knot there. The reason that the word for the intellect is aqal is because the aqal is supposed to be that faculty which restrains the human being or holds back the human being. Where the desires would like something, the aqal holds it back, right? Where the emotion wants something, the aqal holds it back. So the aqal is that means by which the human being is controlled. Now, there's another aspect as well, which is the aqal knows its limitation. The aqal knows that where its limit within which it can work. Hence, it doesn't go beyond to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why Peter Kreeft, in Socratic logic, he writes that rational or logic is not something against religion, but an aid to religion. Logic, the study of logic, is not something against religion, but an aid to religion. And the reason that is so is because the aqal is set straight by logic. Like sound reasoning is what logic teaches you, just like grammar teaches you sound speech. So Peter Kreeft writes in Socratic logic that logic is a tool for the theist. Logic is a tool for the theist. This will only make sense when you realize that the aql is the tool by which we recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so now here I'm going to ask you to look now on your notes to right after, on page 3, please. Imam Muhasibi. Imam Muhasibi is a scholar that lived at the same time of Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal and other great scholars. He lived in Baghdad. He was born in the year 165 Hijri and lived until 243. Imam Ghazali is Imam Muhasibi is most known for his influence later on Imam Ghazali. He wrote such books that inspired the works of Imam Ghazali later on, but he was someone who wrote extensively on the aql, on the intellect, and on intelligence. And the reason he did that is because, okay, we now have more handouts for everyone. If you don't have a handout, Can you please raise your hand, inshallah? Wow. Okay. I'm going to wait so we can pass these out, inshallah, so that everyone can stick with us, inshallah. Keep your hands raised, inshallah, so we know who doesn't have one. And we're on page 3, Imam Muhasibi's theory of intelligence. Okay, it seems that all the brothers now have one, inshallah. And is that it? There's still sisters that don't have it? Okay, please, if you don't have, if that whole row doesn't have it, maybe you can sit next to someone who does have it, because these notes are very important. All right, khair inshallah. Okay, khair. So, moving forward now, we're still discussing the aql. We're still understanding how classical, early Muslims understood the aql and its role. So, Imam Muhasibi is an ideal person for studying the aql and studying the intelligence. Why? And remember, I want everyone to understand why we're doing this. The beginning statement is that the Prophet ﷺ is the most intelligent. But if we don't understand what intelligence is and how the early Muslims understood intelligence, hence how we should understand intelligence, it's very difficult for us to qualify that statement and understand how intelligent the Prophet ﷺ was. The reason why Imam Muhasibi is ideal for studying here, point 1 and 2, is he was an early Muslim. He lived in the 2nd century, so he's an early Islamic scholastic, and he lived during the time of the Mu'tazila, or the rationalists, so he was pushing back against extreme rationality. So he was walking that Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah tightrope between the rationalists who were trying to say, you know what, we don't even need any revelation, all we need is rationality and we don't need anything else. So Imam Muhasibi rahimahullah, he says, the noun aql itself is not found in the Quran. These are my notes, these are not Imam Muhasibi's. This is from the book that I'm writing on this topic. The noun aql itself is not found in the Quran. If you open the entire Quran, will you ever find the word aql? No, you won't find the word aql. However, its verbal form occurs 46 times in the Quran. So 46 times throughout the entire Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, aren't you thinking? Why don't you think? Use your thinking. Use this aql that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. The majority of those mentions are connected to the signs of Allah, such as trees, vegetations, planetary movements, celestial objects, and the remnants of past nations. What this means is, every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the destruction of a previous nation, He says, think about that. Use your aql. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the creation, whether it be, the mountains, the stars, all of these amazing things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, contemplate over that. Next point. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls upon the aql to reflect upon these things, to deduce from that reflection the greatness of Allah. So again, the aql's role is to lead you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next point. Imam Muhasibi rahimahullah ta'ala describes the word aql referring to 3 different things. There's a basic level of intellect given directly by Allah to those who are responsible. This is that base level of intellect that I was speaking about earlier that makes one legally responsible before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second level of intellect is a deeper understanding called fahm, or understanding. The third level of intellect is called basira, which is something we'll talk in detail later on. Another term which Imam Muhasibi used to explain the first meaning was the implanted nur, light, within the creation by which we see and express that which we know. He felt that just as the eyes had sight, which was a natural quality placed within the majority of creation, so too was the intellect a natural type of sight placed within the majority of creation through which we see. Let me explain this point. Imam Muhasibi and many other scholars looked at it this way. Human beings have physical sight that we see through the eyes. In Arabic, that is called basar. That's called basar. Now, that sight, in order for it to work, is dependent on a few things. There's something external to the eyes that's necessary for sight to happen. And what is that? Light. Now, the eye itself has to be functional, but external to the functional eye, there's something else, which is light. So without the light, the eye doesn't see anything. Imam Muhasibi and others said, the aql that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, the aql that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us is the basira. It's called basira, and basira also needs external light in order to see correctly. And that external light is what? Is revelation of Allah. Please understand this point, because this is going to be how we go forward and break down moral intelligence and emotional intelligence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So again, please understand this point, that you have basar and you have basira. Basar, physical sight. Right? Basar, physical sight. It's how I see everything. The light has to be on. I need external light, but I also need eyes that actually work. The aql, in order to see, the aql has to be sound first and foremost. And on top of that, that's why Allah says, Nurun ala nur. The nur of aql combined with the nur of revelation is how we see. Is how we see. The nur of aql, the nur of the intellect, combined with the light of revelation, is the means by which we see. So Imam Muhasibi, throughout his works, yes, the nur, what did I say? The nur of aql, the light of aql, combined with the light of revelation. See, can I go a little deeper? Is it okay? Is this content too dense? Because if it is, we can skip straight to the emotional intelligence stuff. Okay, you guys are with Dr. Shadi, for crying out loud, man. Like, I figured if I could go deep anywhere, it's here. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Early science, we thought that the eyes had light. Early science. They used to say the light of Nuru Aini, right? The light of my eyes, Nuru Aini, right? Early science thought that the eyes had light. And we even called the eye light. But we found out later that no, the eyes don't have light. The eyes are dependent on external light to see. So basar, physical sight, needs external light in order to function. Now, the aql is interesting because the aql sees things, first and foremost. By seeing, what do I mean? Understanding. Understanding. The aql sees things through understanding. But we say, when you don't have revelation, the aql may work, but it can't see well. It's struggling to see clearly. What is that thing? And when the light is turned on, revelation, the aql sees now. Now here's something, we're going to go a little deeper, okay? We are the only species that has metacognition to our knowledge. What is metacognition? The ability to think about thoughts. You know, when you were a kid, you were like, why am I me? Right? This dude was doing it yesterday. He was doing it yesterday. He's like, yo, am I really me? Like, what makes me me? Like, so, you know that ability to think about yourself? That ability to think about your thoughts is metacognition. And to our knowledge, modern science, we are the only creation that has the ability to think about themselves. You know what Razi says? When he talks about nurun ala nur, he says one of the major distinctions, write this down, a major distinction between basar and basira is that the basira is aware of what it sees, the basar is not aware of what it sees. Write it down, I'll explain it. The basira is conscious of what it sees. The aql can understand or comprehend what it is seeing. But the eyes don't comprehend what it sees. Can I give you an example? If I take binoculars, right, and I put them on my face, are the binoculars aware of what it's seeing? Exactly. Am I able to understand and am I aware of what I'm seeing? Yes. So what he says here is that the aql is the only thing in creation. Now remember from the beginning of today's class, what was the thing that human beings were given different from the rest of creation? A rational soul that had aql. And aql is the only thing that we know, that has stumped philosophers, that is aware of itself. It knows what it sees. So when you see a sunset, you can say, Subhanallah. Can the eye say Subhanallah? Because it doesn't know it's seeing. Is this too, y'all with me? Like, it doesn't know it's seeing. What are you saying? Let me try that one more time. The rest of the creation sees the creation of God. It sees the creation of Allah. But the aql is the only thing that science tells us is able to think of itself and know that it exists. Metacognition. Everyone understand up till there? That is what is unique in human existence. Now, the role of us being here is to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That's the entire purpose of all of this. To see something beautiful and say, Subhanallah. To see something and go, Ma khalaqta hadha batil subhanak. This is amazing. Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. Ashhadu. What does ashhadu mean? I bear witness. Can the basar bear witness? Can the basira bear witness? Thank you. Y'all get what I'm saying. We hear. We hear. Yes.
So we can say without basar we can have basira.
Oh yes, for sure. And in fact, the question is, without basar can you have basira? In fact, many times when the basar is blinded and lost, basira is sharpened. The basira is sharpened because of it's not being bombarded with physical, material things. It opens up to the spiritual ability to see. The reason why I'm putting this way, and you have to understand it, is because when we talk about emotional intelligence is one of the intelligences of the aql. And many people don't have that basira. They either have poor eyesight or poor lighting in the room. I hope you got the metaphor. People that don't have emotional intelligence, either, I'm going to say it again, either the eyes aren't good, the tool by which they use is not good, or they haven't turned the lights on enough. My point here is to show you one of the aspects, which is the most important aspect, in my estimation, of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's aql, which is the emotional intelligence. And the emotional intelligence is the means by which the Prophet of God is going to transfer the message to other people. I'm going to say that again, just the last part. The emotional intelligence is the tool by which the message of Allah is transferred over into other people. One more time. The emotional intelligence, which is part of the aql, is the tool by which, the means by which, the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is transferred into other people. If the Prophet ﷺ was not blessed by Allah with a high emotional intelligence, it would be very difficult for him to perform the exact purpose for which he was sent, which was to pass on the message. Does everyone understand? Any questions up till now? Yes.
So can we say that most people do not have the spirit of the Spirit?
Okay. I think most of us have not done what we're going to do throughout this class, and we're just getting started. I don't know what he said about lunch at 2:30. I didn't hear that. This is soul food right here. We can eat later, real food, but we got to get through this. I got a lot of content for you, and I think y'all really want it. You battled through the Northeastern to come and all that. It's like, okay, listen, look at this statement. It's a little fuzzy. It's not in your notes. I'm going to read it out loud. I'm sorry that we can't make it more clear. Imam As-Suhawardi, he says, whoever contemplates the Prophet ﷺ's excellent management of the Arabs, who were like wild, scattered beasts, and whose repulsive and aloof natures, and how he led them and bore patiently with their boorishness and harms until they began to follow him and rally under him and fight against their own families and fathers and sons for his sake, and how they preferred him over their own selves and immigrated from their homelands and beloved for his pleasure. All this he did in spite of not having prior experience, despite him not reading books from any narrative of past nations, could have been where he could have learned these things. Indeed, if you contemplate these things, you will come to the realization that he was the most intelligent of all creation. Let me explain this for those who can't see it. Listen, in order to take hood people that are rough around the edges, right? People are rough around the edges. We are how we are. We come like this, whatever. What's up? Whoever can take such rough people and culture them and train them and live with them amicably and make them leaders for the world, who went to China and India and around the world and created a global movement out of these rough people. If you just study that, you'll realize he was the most intelligent person ever. And he couldn't read. That's why it came from revelation. That level of intelligence came from revelation. The sign of his intelligence, the sign of your intelligence, is your ability to be around people and inspire positive change in people. Not to run off and go in the library and just sit there and not deal with nobody, but to actually be there amongst the people, to be amongst them, and then to transform them. That's the sign of the Prophet ﷺ's intelligence. No, you don't got to take a picture, brother. You can buy the book, inshallah. It'll be out in 2 months. I'm just picking on you. I'm sorry. Okay. Does everyone understand this point? Because now is how we enter into emotional intelligence. This is the segue right into emotional intelligence, because you cannot guide people, you cannot connect to people until you emotionally understand them. Until you are emotionally cognizant of who they are. There's more printouts. We have a few more printouts. Just a few of them. Okay. Khair inshallah. I'm so sorry. You guys, mashallah. Barakallahu feekum. Let me give an example. We're looking up here right now. We're not looking at the notes. We're looking up here right now. The Prophet ﷺ one day was sitting in the masjid. A young man walks into the masjid ready to accept Islam. And the young man, ready to accept Islam, sits with the Prophet ﷺ. He hears everything about Islam. Sounds great, sounds good, love it. You guys doing all types of good things. I love it, man. It's cool. He goes, yes, but I got one condition, Ya Rasulullah. Allow me to commit zina. I'll be Muslim. Astaghfirullah. 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 The Sahaba were just like, what are you saying? In front of the Prophet ﷺ, they jumped up right away. What's going on? How could you even ask such a question? The Prophet ﷺ sat with this young man. He brought him close to him. And he began to talk to him gently. And he triggered something inside of him. Empathy. See, people who are abusive and psychopath, they have something in common. They lack the ability to empathize for people. They lack the ability for empathy, to feel and put themselves in the place of other people. They can't do that. A child can't do it either until the age is around 4 or 5. And we'll talk about that. They can't, a child, I have a 2-year-old. Well, he gets it now. You know the point where they smack you, and then it gets to the point where they know they smacking you? You know what I'm saying, right? You don't got kids? No, you don't got, you'll see. You don't got a little brother? No, in front of you. No, behind you, and yes, you, yes. You have kids, right? Brothers. Younger sisters. So you don't remember that time when they'll smack you? You very well. Okay, exactly. All right, so you gotta give me some like feedback right here, man. So there's an age that comes, and we're gonna talk about that, inshallah, where the lowest level of like empathy is when a child, see this child here, smiling, scratching, presumably he doesn't know what his brother's feeling. He doesn't know. He has no, and he doesn't have the aqal yet. It's not developed yet. The aqal is not developed yet for that person to have empathy and actually feel what someone else is going through. But there comes an age when they start to know what they're doing and they're smacking you on purpose, and we stop there. You're gonna get one back. You're gonna get one back. Now what he did is he said to that young man, "Do you have a mother?" "Yeah, I have a mother." "Do you have a sister?" "Yeah, I have a sister." Now tell me about your mom and sister. He's making his mind now think about them. "Oh, my mom, you know, she's like this. You know, she makes those nice naans, you know, in the morning for me. And, you know, she wakes me up for fajr, turns the lights on. And I'm like, no, turn off the lights, mom." You know, whatever. "You have a sister?" Yeah, she gets on my nerves sometimes, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And he goes, "What if someone committed zina with her?" "Astaghfirullah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah." "No way. "Ah, but you want to commit zina with someone else's mother or sister?" He realized. The light came on. The light came on. Now look at this. Now let's go back, guys. You see this? The goal is the moral intelligence. The goal is to teach someone zina is wrong. But it won't happen without what? Exactly. It won't happen unless you understand people. You understand that young man. You understand who he is. Then you can transfer that over to him. So emotion, look at that note there, write that down. Emotional intelligence is going to be the tool through which the moral compass is calibrated. This is the tool by which people are given moral intelligence, which comes through revelation. Okay, everyone understand this up till now? Any questions? Okay, now, oh yes, for sure. I want you to look at your notes for a moment, please. At the bottom of page 3, please. The last point. The last point on page 3. The last point. Someone read for me. Who wants to read that one? Read it. Bismillah. Yes, read loudly, please. Felt that upright actions are what inform you about the aqal of a person. Not what they know, what they do. Go forward.
Regardless of what a person may know, it is ultimately their actions that determine whether they are considered intelligent or not.
Yes. That is how Imam Muhasibi looks at aql. He says ultimately it is the conduct of the person, the actions of the person that are indicative of the intelligence of that person. Go ahead.
Muhasibi's pragmatic approach to the role of the intellect forces us to include behavioral understanding, regulation, and modifications in the definition of intelligence.
Yes, behavioral understanding, behavioral regulation, behavioral modification, all of these come under intelligence once we see that Imam Muhasibi says, no, it is your behavior, it is your action that tells us how educated you are. Now, it's interesting, if you look at certain languages, one of the words we use for someone who, there's a word in Urdu, they say, but tamiz. Now, the word tamiz comes from the Arabic mayyaza yumayyizu, to give weight to something. Mayyaza, mizan, mayyaza yumayyizu, to weigh. And a bad tamiz means lack of tamiz. So the word used for someone who can't behave in the correct setting is someone who lacks the ability to understand the circumstance and use their mind to regulate their mind and modify their behavior. So we even use it in our common language that intellect is connected to behavior, and that's what Imam Muhasibi here is saying. He's saying upright actions are what truly inform us about the quality and soundness of one's intellect. Regardless of what a person may know, it is ultimately their actions that determine whether they are considered intelligent or not. Going down further, this is why we have made emotional intelligence an essential fundamental element of the aql. The Quran says, Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ, and we made for you a light by which you walk amongst the people. That verse is very important. Please highlight that verse. Page number 4, right in the top, the third line on page number 4. And we have made for him a light by which you walk amongst the people. We spoke about this relationship, right? The light of revelation is the external light through which the aql, the basira, sees. Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. We have given you a light by which you walk amongst the people. Do you see the connection? If I want to walk amongst you and not upset someone, not step on someone's toes, not bump into someone, I need light. I need my eyes to be open, and I need light. If we were to turn off all the lights, close my eyes, and I try to walk out of here without touching or stepping on anyone, it'd be very difficult. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse says what? وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا. Which one is it? What is the nur? وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا. The light of revelation and the aql. Yamshi bihin nas, through that light is how you walk amongst the people. Now, I'll ask you a question. Out of moral intelligence and emotional intelligence, which one of them directly relates to how you walk amongst the people? Raise your hand, someone. You say moral. Why moral? You have to follow some guidelines, right? Like if I step on your foot and you say that hurt me, and I'm like, no, that's nothing wrong with that. It's totally fine. You get what I'm saying, right? Okay, cool. Who says emotional? Yes? Why so?
Well, if you're going to walk on people and have and understand people and understand them, then you better, talk to them.
Live with them amicably. Exactly. Hence, both of them. Both of those types of intelligence are what is needed for me to walk amongst the people in a way that I don't upset people, I don't hurt people, and I walk amongst them in a beautiful way. Any questions or comments up to this point? Now, we have to move a little quicker just because of time, inshallah. Okay, there is one hadith which is perhaps, it's a well-known hadith, but it is perhaps the best place to begin when we talk about the high level of the Prophet ﷺ's emotional intelligence. And it's the hadith of Amr bin As radiallahu ta'ala an. Amr bin As radiallahu ta'ala an was once sent on a mission of reconnaissance by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him to go on a mission. This is a well-known hadith. As I start to say it, you're all going to remember the hadith. Amr bin As goes on the mission, and he comes back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is sitting down in the masjid, presumably, and Amr bin As comes up to him, and he says, I'm back. I did what you asked me to do. So now, he's done. The Prophet ﷺ chose him to go do something. He finished what the Prophet ﷺ had told him to do, and he came back to him, and he came to tell the Prophet ﷺ, I'm done. And he gave him all the news that he had to give him. After he told him, I did the job, the Prophet ﷺ, shabash, mashallah, mumtaz, whatever, good job, go ahead. All right, great, mashallah, you did what you were supposed to do. Before he left, he says, Ya Rasulullah, I got to ask you one question though. Okay, go ahead. As I mentioned the question, I need you to think what must have been going through his head in order to ask this question. He asked the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, Man ahabba an-nas ilayka ya Rasulullah. Ya Rasulullah, before I go back home, just me and you sitting right here, I want to ask you a question. Who do you love the most? Now, what was he thinking? What do you think is going through his head at this time?
He loves the Prophet loves him the most.
Yes. Amr bin As, by the way the Prophet ﷺ interacted with him, by the way the Prophet ﷺ gave him attention, by the way the Prophet ﷺ focused on him, Amr bin As radiallahu ta'ala an, he felt that, and not only that, there's something else present too. Can you imagine, you just go up to Shadi right now, you're like, yo, Shadi, yo, Doc, yo, who you love the most, yo? Yo, come on. What else has to be there for you to even ask the question? There's something that has to be there. Yes. You have to be extremely comfortable with Doc to go up to Doc and be like, yo, Doc, tell me, yo. You know what I'm saying, right? So he asked the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Man ahabba an-nas ilayka ya Rasulullah. Because if you get this, if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says Anta, millions of Muslims from now until eternity will be reading this hadith that I'm the most beloved of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm the most beloved of the beloved of Allah. That makes me the beloved of Allah. Done. I'm good. So let me ask this question. What does Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? Yeah. Prophet ﷺ goes, Aisha. Ooh, okay. Wasn't quite ready for that one. All right, cool. Prophet ﷺ, then Amr bin As, the hadith says, Thumma man ya Rasulullah. He goes, Min al-rijal. Afwan, samihni. He goes, Min al-rijal. No. Okay. From the men, at least I could be the most beloved man. Min al-rijal. Qal, Abuha. Her dad. Oh, okay. Yeah, he was in the cave. He is in the Quran at different places, okay. Thumma man. Who after that, Ya Rasulullah? Come on. Umar. Thumma man. The hadith says, Amr bin As says, فَعَدَّ رِجَالٍ. He says he mentioned a lot of people. فَتَرَقْتُ الْمَسْأَلَةِ. He's like, I stopped asking مَخَافَةً, because I was scared to find out my real level. I was scared I was going to find out where I really was on that list, so I just stopped asking. I stopped asking any questions. I'm done. Tell me this. I got to pick on someone. Maroon shirt. Oh, you're not married. You don't worry. I can't use you. Well, are you married? But you don't have no kids yet, right? Okay, I can't. I need someone with a bigger family. How many kids? 1. How old? It doesn't count. I need someone with like 5 people in the family and the lowest age is like 7 right now. 3 kids, 2, no one got 3 kids here?
I got 6.
There you go, that's my man. That's my man. Alhamdulillah. What's your name, brother? Okay, what was it? Shazad. Shazad. Can you do this? Can you make each person in that family, the whole house, make each one of them think that you love them more than everyone else in the house?
I do that right now.
Oh, word. I need proof, bro. So each person in the family right now feels that you love them the most.
Equally, but.
No. Hold on, no buts.
Okay, fine, everyone thinks I love them the most.
Do they?
Except for wife.
Oh, so then you didn't do it. The miracle of the Prophet ﷺ, Shahzad. Is his wife here, by the way? Is his children here too?
No, only one.
Oh, only one. Okay. Only one child is here, she said. The point I'm trying to make here, brothers and sisters, before we go on, is in order for the Prophet ﷺ, Shahzad has a hard job. He has to make every person in that house, every single individual, feel that Baba loves me more than everyone else in this house. If you're honest with yourself, that's extremely difficult to do. And that's only 5 people, man. That's the Prophet ﷺ, the sign of this level of his emotional intelligence is that a whole city felt that he loved them more than anyone else. That's what I need you to contemplate on for a moment, is how the Prophet ﷺ reached that high level where the entire city felt so close that anyone is going to come up and be like, Ya Rasulullah, who do you love the most? And he felt that he was that person that the Prophet ﷺ loved the most. Now, let's define emotional intelligence. Let's define, this is very important.
3-minute break.
I love that, man, yo. You guys are blessed, yo. You guys are blessed, yo. Seriously, say Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah. Some have described EQ, emotional intelligence, EQ, emotional intelligence, okay? Some have described EQ as 4 abilities. The ability to identify emotions, number 1. Oh no, this is up there, you're gonna write this down. Wait, actually. No, it's not here. This definition is not on the page. Gotta buy the book. Number 1, identify emotion. Number 2, the ability to use emotion to generate thoughts and action in other people. Yeah, you could just take a picture. Yeah, exactly. Smart. Ability to understand emotional information. So what this means is not just the ability to identify something's wrong with my daughter, but to understand what's wrong with her. There's a big difference between the two. Your husband may notice you're upset and have no clue why you're upset. At all. Right, Shahzad? Yeah, don't worry. You're going to love this halakha, bro. Well, you might not love it, but alhamdulillah. Next one, the ability to regulate and manage emotions. So Shahzad, after this class, you should gain some ability to kind of regulate emotions. I know, right? You're like, huh? Trust me. That's the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. That's what I want you to see. That's the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The connection to people on this high level where he was able to recognize emotions, understand emotions, use that information to generate thoughts and to manage the emotional states of other people. So everyone got these so I can go forward? Okay, in that case, I'll leave this up. Everyone look on your paper on page number 4. Section 3. Section 3, page number 4. Emotional awareness, inter and intrapersonal. 2 types of emotional awareness. First of all, what is emotional awareness? It is not emotional understanding. Emotional awareness is just going to be your ability and we'll see it throughout the life of the Prophet ﷺ, your ability to tell when the teacher's upset. All right? Your ability to tell when mom is upset. Your ability to be aware of emotional changes. Look at this. Howard Gardner says, the lowest basic level in its most elementary form, the interpersonal intelligence entails the capacity of the young child to discriminate among the individuals around him and detect various moods. My 4-year-old can clearly tell good mood versus bad mood. My 2-year-old can't tell the difference. I gotta say, I'm serious right now, stop. I'm not playing. And they still think I'm playing. They can't tell yet. When they get a little older, they won't even ask you for the keys to the car when you're upset. Because they understand. They read the emotions. He said, now the deepest level, and this is where we see the Prophet ﷺ at. The deepest level is what? Can you read that for me? Same one? Bottom of page 4, please.
The deepest level is the capacity to notice moods, temperaments, motivations, and intentions in oneself, intra, and in others in turn as well.
Everyone look at that line, please. The capacity to notice moods, temperaments, motivations, and intentions in yourself, number 1. Emotional awareness and understanding, interpersonal, intrapersonal. In yourself first. Imam Ghazali says what? One of the keys of understanding is ma'rifatun nafs, to know the self, to know you. The key to in emotional intelligence is first your own understanding of your own emotional state. That's the first thing. You can tell I'm getting upset right now. You know I'm getting agitated right now. Like I know Dr. Shadi's getting agitated because I'm supposed to end right now and take a break. So I'm reading that, right? I'm emotionally like linked with my man, right? Let's go forward a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Perfecting the aql means a person must develop an acute intra you. You know yourself. Shahzad, one of the biggest reasons why we can't understand other people's emotions is we haven't spent enough time understanding ourselves yet. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not picking on you, I know your name. Okay. You know what I'm saying? One of the primary things that has to happen first, is a person has to spend time developing an intrapersonal understanding of emotions. An intrapersonal understanding of emotions. And then an interpersonal emotional awareness as well. This was the example we already gave on. I'm going to stop now because what we're going to do after a 3-minute break. Sheikh, they came through storms. They came through everything to be here. I got to get through all of this. So how long do we have to break for?
We have 20 almost minutes.
Huh? Can we do 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
A hard 10-minute break. Huh? A working lunch. Working lunch. Working lunch. Does everyone know what a working lunch is? You grab your food. Get your food. Come back. We'll take a 5-minute, 10-minute break. At 10 minutes, we're starting. You can do a working lunch. Assalamu alaikum. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. What brother's doing? Let me come down. How you doing? You good? Good to see you. Alhamdulillah. Brought the whole crew. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah. What's going on, man? How you doing? MashaAllah. Good to see you guys. Assalamu alaikum. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. All you brothers? MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. We'll get back to everybody now. Good? What's going on? No. Good? Right after class? Okay, cool. Wait, yeah, Saturday. Normal schedule. Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
The charger that you gave me wasn't working, so I just switched it with one that I had.
Really?
Yeah. So this one is working,
Okay.
at least for my phone, and the other one wasn't working. But now it's fine.
So which one works?
The one that you had. But yeah, it's 26% battery.
All right,
The
so
charge is quicker.
I'm gonna charge this and then pick
Yeah,
it
yeah,
up.
that's no problem.
I'm good. I'm not gonna Hopefully it won't get on that app. Thank you. Yo, what's going on, bro? How are you?
I told Muhammad I was coming, and he said,
Okay, go for it. What are we putting it on? Where is it sharing it?
Sharing on my page. So go to my
your
page.
Okay, yes. How you doing, Doc? Yo, my bad, yo.
Oh, you're doing a great job, man.
Okay, my bad.
This is great, man. You can go over if you need.
All right, that's
Don't
what
worry
they
about
told
time.
me. That's what they told me.
I'm telling you, this is what happens when you just put your head down and you push something, right, with like reckless abandon, you get results. And we did for 2 months.
So up till now, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
I've just been kind of building.
This was the first one which was growing. So this is the one that's live. So hit share, and then see if you can copy link. Then put it wherever you want. Yeah.
I was just gonna share it.
Oh, you can just share it, I guess. Yeah.
I should share it to other people.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, some of the things we had, I think it's all about advertising. And I had a busybody. There are some people who I call busybodies who love to talk, love to text. If you get one of them on things, word just goes flying. Am I on here?
Yes, dude.
I'm on here like I'm camera shy or something.
Yeah, I just want you to remember that it's on, that's all. Yeah, we'll do a working lunch, man. If we do a working lunch, that would be the best service.
Yeah. What's happening, my man?
Yeah, what's going on?
Feeling good? Good?
Oh, you didn't get any notes on the email?
There's some sushi.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
We'll take 2 minutes, and then like Chick said, it's a working lunch. Working lunch. So we'll just, you can bring back your food, and we'll start in 2 minutes.
All the brothers are going for lunch right now. Yeah, it's cool. After they get their lunch, then I have to sit on the Okay, so you want the notes. Okay. So notes.
It's a busy one, right? So that's the talkative type. And I guess what we're going to do is just put our nose down.
I think when the book comes out, I think we should follow it up, man.
Oh, you
somehow.
come again? Yeah.
Somehow follow it up. I know it'll be kind of redundant, some aspects,
No,
not everything.
Not at all.
Part 2. So I am just
Yeah,
actually
part
now starting the emotional intelligence part. Everything up to that, I had to build into what is Attah.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, hey, as long as we got time, we just gotta catch a flight. That's all we're against.
Oh, yeah. What time's your flight? Ali, you want to take shit back? Or am I going to take a shit?
How far away is Philly?
He's going to take you back.
How far away is Philly?
Philly, it depends if there's
Philly?
traffic.
It could be 90 minutes max.
I mean,
for 60.
Yeah.
What time is your flight, Shay?
7.
7 o'clock?
Oh.
It's gonna be tight, right?
You should depart at like 5:20 maximum. 5:20. You should pray Asura on the side, right after you're done. And Ali will take you.
7 o'clock flight. It's domestic. You're saying going
I
to
can finish this in 2 hours. If I got 2 hours, 5:20, you said?
Yeah.
If we start in the next 10 minutes, I think we can.
Yeah,
Are we leaving here at 5:20 for 7?
He's got to leave at 5:20 for 7.
It's cutting it tight. Minimum 1 hour for domestic.
So that means arrival
Minimum
at
1
6
hour
o'clock.
what?
For domestic. Do you have pre-check by
I
any
have
chance?
pre-check,
Oh, you have
but
pre-check?
it didn't go through, man. Yo, it didn't go through. I gave you the. It's not your fault.
What is
but
it?
I have
You skipped security.
TSA
You skip
and
security.
clear.
So why don't you do it? He'll do it.
At the desk.
That's what.
Tell them you got
No, Ali's going to do it online right now.
I tried. It's
Didn't
hard
do
to
it?
do it after you reserve. the
Yeah,
book.
it's tougher after.
Even if I put it in, it didn't work.
We put it in though.
I know.
At least
I
you
looked
put it
on the itinerary and I saw you put it in.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you go through a third party like Orbitz,
Oh.
then it doesn't do it.
Yeah, you
When
have to
you
go
go
to the
straight
straight.
through.
What if we call the airlines?
I've done this before. They put you on wait forever.
What's a
Don't worry.
Saturday? So hopefully the
Don't
airport's
worry.
not too busy, but 7
Wait.
So 7 o'clock, I would say leave at 5:15, like 5:10, 5:15, like 5:20 might be good.
closer to an hour.
Five. Let's look at five.
I'll say five. I think 5:20 you're gonna miss the flight. Yeah.
I think you should be doing your takbir and ihram for us 5 o'clock.
Really?
5:10 maximum.
Like that's cutting it very close.
And then booking out the door.
Who's driving him? Okay, you're gonna have to drive like.
You have your bags with you and everything?
Everything.
No, but
They're in
my
his car.
trunk.
Whose
So
car?
you should
Yeah,
take
let's do that right now. Let's do that transfer. Let's do that right now. They're in your car?
They're in my trunk.
You have your keys? We'll do the transfer right now.
It's a good thing I got my sister's car. We'll clean it now.
I'm sorry.
1 minute. 1 minute, ladies and gentlemen.
A little bit, not as much as I should.
No, I mean, I'm just curious what happened to that thing.
I want to be there more. I'm more public. The point is, you have to be in your campus. That's it. You got a community you're good at, you're connected, that's all you know. A bit. It's not that much. Yeah, it's more scholarly. That's what causes more movement. That's what guys, Imam,
You guys all live in each other? Or it's like, the house is big though.
exactly, it's not that close. I'm good. Yeah. They have a program. Weird. And then what they do, yeah, that's why I'm trying to look at my notes. That's all. How you been? You're good though? Yo, take care of family. Money's coming in. You got your health. You got your game.
It's not like that.
Fuck, you don't have enough time, right? Inshallah. Yo, hit me up, please.
I'll message you
When?
on your social media.
No, man, no. That's a fake life. It's not real.
Yo, you're posing pretty high. Flying.
Which one was it? It's curated content.
It's curious, is that what they call it?
Yeah, curated.
Just beautiful scene.
No, get my number. Let's see.
What's your number?
997 501 5849. Yeah.
That's you?
Yep.
I have you.
So text me. So I have you.
How's your coffee?
I stopped that.
Oh, what?
I was too busy, man. Too much.
Crazy, man. You gotta.
Okay, I think we can start now.
Go ahead, just start.
Yo, I texted it to you. Looking good, yo. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina wa Maulana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Great call on the working lunch idea. That's awesome. Thank you, sister. Jazakallah khair. Khair, let's continue, inshallah, where we left off. The last thing we were discussing, we looked over some of the four hierarchical abilities of EQ. which is the identifying of emotions, using emotions to generate thoughts in other people, understanding emotions, and then regulating emotions. All of these four things, brothers and sisters, have to be looked at from the perspective of intra and interpersonal. So what we mean by that intrapersonal, all four of these capacities, when we study the life of the Prophet ﷺ, we learned that he was working to create that within yourself. Number one, all of these, we have more handouts for those who need them. He was working to create this ability first in himself, and then also using this, having the ability to identify or have these capacities when working with other people as well. So we talked about emotional awareness and understanding, both as intra and interpersonal. Now let's move forward. Perfecting the aql, perfecting one's aql, means a person must develop an acute intrapersonal and interpersonal emotional awareness. And we spoke about how children don't get that for a while. It takes time for them to actually build that. I wanted to narrate to you a few stories now from the life of the Prophet ﷺ, because our actual goal here is to study the Rasul ﷺ and see emotional intelligence within his life. On page 5 of your notes, we have a section that says prophetic examples, page 5. The Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he once said to his beloved wife Aisha radiallahu anha, "O Aisha, I can discern when you are pleased with me and when you are annoyed with me." He tells her that, "O Aisha, I am so connected to your emotions, I am so connected to you as my wife, that I can tell when you're happy with me and when you're upset with me." This is very profound because it shows that not only is he aware of her emotional changes, but he's also communicating to her his awareness of those emotional changes inside of her. So he's going out of his way to tell his wife, Aisha, that, hey, I know when you're happy and I know when you're upset with me. So Aisha, she plays along as well. She goes, "How do you discern it? How can you tell? How can you tell when I'm happy? How can you tell when I'm upset with you?" Thereupon he, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, replied, "When you are happy with me and take an oath, you take an oath and you say, I swear by the Lord of Muhammad, La wa Rabbi Muhammad. And when you are upset with me, you say, La wa Rabbi Ibrahim. You say, I swear by the Lord of Ibrahim." And Aisha radiallahu anha, she laughed, she smiled, she said, "Yes, you're right, Ya Rasulullah. But by Allah, I leave nothing but your name." She says that I'm not adding extra words when I get angry. Nakam, yeah, all these extra adjectives and sifat that we add on to someone when we're upset. She says, no, all I do is leave out. All I do is ahjuru ismu. I only leave out your name. What we learn from this hadith is the Prophet ﷺ is displaying to the husbands of his ummah, brothers, listen close. He's displaying to the husbands of the ummah that it is one of his habits to be extremely connected to the emotional changes and the nuances of the emotional changes of your spouse. This is a very, very important aspect. And when we study the Prophet ﷺ, we normally don't bring out this aspect. This is a clear representation of the emotional intelligence of the Prophet ﷺ, because he's telling her. Normally what happens, we want to hear explicitly, just tell me when you're angry. Just tell me when you're happy. And the other side is saying, no, you should be able to read happiness from me. You should be able to understand. We should be so connected that you can read those emotions from me. But the Prophet ﷺ is teaching the males of his ummah. If anyone else needs a handout, we have more. The Prophet ﷺ is teaching the brothers and husbands of his ummah that no, it is rewarding and it is a part of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ for you yourself to be aware of the emotional changes in your spouse. Another example. So what do we see here? Look up at the PowerPoint. We see awareness. How do we see awareness? Brothers, one brother, where's the awareness? I won't pick on you again. Someone else. Where's the awareness? This is not hard. It shouldn't be hard. Yes. And the understanding? Same thing. Awareness and understanding are close. One is you can tell someone's upset. Another is you're able to interpret that. You understand? Okay, cool. Let's go to the next one. This next one is another beautiful example. It's not on your paper. You can write this one down though. Put it on the margin there, right next to this example. By the way, majority of the examples I have are going to be marital examples. And I think it's because the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us that one of the most important places for you to display emotional intelligence is within your house. That is probably the most important place. With your children, with your mother, with your spouse, with your brothers and sisters. That is the place where a lack of emotional intelligence. Let me share something with you guys. A good friend of mine adopted a Moroccan child, an orphan. A good friend of mine adopted a Moroccan child. And they put him through all types of difficulties, but finally, alhamdulillah, he was able to bring this child into their house. So I was talking to him about a month or two after, and I was saying, how's it going at home? And he said to me, you know what's interesting is that this child doesn't cry like normal children. I said, what do you mean? He says, whenever normal children are too hot or too cold, or hungry or thirsty, or need a diaper change, they cry. They know that if I cry, the world around me will respond to that cry. The world around me is empathetic to my tears, and they will jump to figure out what it is that is wrong with me. To the point where a mother can tell by the cry which thing needs to happen right now. For most people, it's just a cry. But for someone connected emotionally with that human being, we can even discern from the type of cry, oh, they're just tired right now. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I just know you're crying. Something's wrong. So he says to me, this boy doesn't cry. And I said, why? He says, you know why? In the orphanage, this child learned that crying does not create a response from people. So the child stopped crying because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't solve problems. What happens in many of our families, people have stopped crying because we are deaf to the emotions that are being asked to be nurtured. Does everyone understand the correlation here? No, I see the nods there. I need to see the nods here. Do you understand? So when the Prophet ﷺ is telling Aisha that I know when you're happy and I know when you're upset, that is extremely profound. Because he's placing a challenge before husbands to know your wife on that deeper level. And he says, I am the best in my family. No one can be better than me. Try to be better than me to your family. He even gives us a challenge. Look at the next example. I want you to write this example down. So just to end that story, if you don't respond to people's emotional pleas, they will stop even just sharing their emotions. They will stop crying out for you to do anything. And that's the worst thing. That is the worst thing. When your child says, I don't even talk to you, Dad, anymore. Why? Because you weren't paying attention for how many years? Why am I gonna? I've learned now that crying doesn't do anything. And crying specifically doesn't mean tears necessarily, but different pleas, different expressions of emotionality. Okay, the story of Aisha drinking. Write this story down. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she says, the hadith is in the Sihah. She says that once I was sitting and I was eating with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was just me and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we were eating. And at the time I was on my menses. I was on my menses at the time that this story is happening. And she says that I grabbed the cup to drink from the cup of water. We had one cup that we were sharing. So I drank from the cup. Okay? And she put the cup down. And she says, when the Prophet ﷺ got thirsty, he picked up the cup and he turned the cup right to where I had placed my lips, and he drank from the same exact spot. What's going on there? Somebody, come on. Shahzad ran away, y'all. Shahzad's by the food, man. Come on. I feel you, bro. I got you. Brothers, what's happening there? Where is emotional intelligence in this example? By the way, no, you're a young man, yo. Okay, go ahead.
She drank from the side that if Rasulullah drank from the opposite side she drank from, she might have not intended for it.
Yes, beautiful. MashaAllah. He realizes that she's in a state where she may feel unclean. Right? And even more emotional feelings at that time. So now, and by the way, there was no lipstick left on the cup. You know, I taught this hadith and one brother was like, well, maybe there was lipstick so it was easy to see. Think about it. He had to have, and you know what's even more profound? He didn't say, he didn't go, watch what I'm about to do. He just did it. And she noticed it. And can you imagine how she felt? Brothers, focus. What do you think went through her heart at that time? And imagine if you did something similar for your mother. Something so small that you don't even make it a big deal to show. When we do it, we're like, yeah, I just did something. Hey, watch this. He just did it. But she felt the feeling of that, and it made her heart so happy. So realize that just that incident there shows he's aware of her emotional state, and he's aware that I will be rewarded by God, by Allah, if I am making her feel better, making her feel in a better state. That's rewarding by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That may be better than 2 rak'ah right now. For sure. Because it's bringing joy to the heart of a mu'min, and on top of that, the most important mu'min in your life, your spouse. Any questions or comments on this example? It's a profound example. It's such a small thing, but extremely profound. Let's go forward. So in this we see emotional understanding. We see mindfulness. We see mindfulness. He's aware of where she put her lips on the cup. He could only do it if he was paying attention to where she drank from. He had to watch that. He had to watch that. So he watched where she did it, and then he turned the cup right there. And he's also extremely romantic too, right? And romantic at a time when there's not like something coming back. Husbands, you know what I'm saying? These guys. These guys, yo. Okay. Look at the next example. Salam. Same page. Family utility of interpersonal intelligence. There's a major family utility to emotional intelligence. We're on page number 5, number 1, where it says family utility of interpersonal emotional intelligence. The wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Salama radiyallahu ta'ala anha, she gives us an example of the emotional awareness of her beloved husband, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She says that while I was laying down with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam under a single woolen sheet, I suddenly got my menses. So I slid out of the covers away as discreetly as possible. So she's intentionally trying to hide what just happened as discreetly as possible. And I went to go and change into the clothes that I would normally wear during that time of the month. When the Prophet ﷺ sensed all this movement happening, the Prophet ﷺ says, Anafisti? Did your menses begin? Did you start menstruating? She replied, yes, I did. He said, okay, after you have changed, please come back and lay close to me again. That's all he says. Please come back and lay close to me again. Again, realizing that at that state where she may be feeling most not wanting to be close, but needing to be close, he recognizes that and says, when you're ready, please come back and lay as close to me as you can, as you just were. Do you understand how he's recognizing the emotional changes and how he's responding to her and speaking to her about those? Any questions or comments here? By the way, number 2 is the example of drinking from the place where Aisha radiallahu anha drank from. Tayyib? Okay. We have examples now of the emotional intelligence of the Prophet ﷺ being on a far broader scope than just with the children around him, his wives, and so on and so forth. Ya'la bin Murrah radiallahu anha relates an example that happened that he witnessed at the hands of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He says that one day he was traveling with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Please remember what we're studying here. We're studying the Prophet of God sallallahu alayhi wasallam's ability to connect to people in creation by understanding their emotions and connect with them. And there's a big problem, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. He says that one day he was traveling with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they passed by a camel which was being used to water crops. When the camel saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it began to make this deep grunting sound over and over again, as if it was calling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As the Prophet ﷺ's attention turned, he went towards and approached the camel. The camel lowered its head to the ground before the Prophet ﷺ. Standing above the camel, the Prophet ﷺ touching it gently, now patting the camel, consoling the camel. The Prophet ﷺ is patting it and he says, where is the owner of this camel? Where is the owner of this camel? The owner came. Sell it to me. Sell me this camel, the Prophet ﷺ says. Now when the Prophet of Allah, don't read ahead please. When the Prophet of Allah ﷺ asks you to sell something, what happens? No, it's free. No, it's free. It's normally free, right? So he goes, no, it's free, Ya Rasulullah. But it's the only one I got. It's the only one I got, and I need to water these things. No, it's a gift for you, O Rasulullah, replied the owner. And the hadith continues. Realizing the magnitude of the gift he was offering, he immediately followed up saying, it is our only camel and a means of our livelihood. It's the only car I got, but it's for you. The Prophet ﷺ didn't want the camel. He wanted him to teach him a lesson. He wanted to teach something to that man, radiallahu an, that sahabi of Rasul ﷺ. He said to him, well, if this is the case, and you have no other camel, then know that this camel has just told me that you work it too hard and you feed it too little, so be good to it. Another narration states that when the camel saw the Prophet ﷺ, it not only began to grunt and groan, but also it cried in front of the Prophet ﷺ. And as the Prophet ﷺ approached, he placed his hands on the camel and it immediately became calm. What are some takeaways from this? As we develop interpersonal emotional awareness, what is interpersonal? With other people. Awareness of other people's emotions. People who are in pain, like this camel, will call out to you more. I'm going to say this again. Once you build more understanding of this and more awareness of people's emotions, like this camel. So here's the question. Why was the camel calling out to the Prophet ﷺ? Because it saw someone who understands pain. It saw someone who understands the emotions of pain. So it called out, help me, help me, help me, to someone who recognizes that. Other people pass by, point number 2. Other people pass by this camel, but it either did not call out for help to them, or it did not understand the cause for help. So when people are struggling emotionally, sometimes they don't even call out. You meet a sister in the masjid, and she's not going to say anything. You meet a brother in the masjid having a tough time with his family and things are rough, he's struggling emotionally. Sometimes they won't even say anything. But when people perceive that you have a heart that is aware, they will call out to you. The same way this camel called out. Everyone understand? Look at point number 3. In another narration, can you look at this? Look at this here. The Rasul ﷺ, in another narration, he says, fear Allah regarding these animals that cannot speak. At the same incident where the camel spoke to him, the Prophet ﷺ said these words. What does that tell you? And I want feedback, brothers or sisters. Someone, give me, what does that tell you about the onus of responsibility? For what? Okay, so we are responsible before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who depend on us emotionally. Okay, cool. I agree, and that's definitely in the hadith. But there's more there. Yes, sister, I'm going to come over here.
We're responsible for the ones that you cannot communicate with us.
Yes. Yes. Are you the one that does the funny jokes? My wife told me if I ever meet this sister to give her salam. So my wife said salam alaikum to you. Alright, cool. It was bothering me the whole time. I was like, okay. Did you hear what she said, everyone? Let me repeat it. She said, we are responsible as human beings and followers of Muhammad ﷺ to recognize the emotional changes and the suffering and pain of people who can't even articulate their pain. You are not only responsible for those people that say, hey, I'm having a bad day today. Hey, I'm having trouble at home. You're also responsible for those people who can't articulate the pain that they're having. For many brothers, this is like, man, I gotta work, man. I got a job, I gotta worry about people's emotions now. Yes! Yes, you follow the Prophet ﷺ, and he had more responsibility than you, but he was connected to the emotions of people. And it's a part of who we are as followers of the Prophet ﷺ. Questions or comments on this point here? Yes. Yeah, so the autistic children and youth and autism in general, we're going to talk about that in more detail towards the end of today's halaqah. But many times all the time, most of the times, if they're high on the spectrum, then they really can't inform you about what they're feeling. And imagine being someone who has feelings, but just, I can't get it out. How much pain and suffering they must go through inside of themselves because they can't get out this pain that they're feeling. Okay? So, khair inshallah. I know this is for a lot of people, it's challenging. It's challenging. I'm going to come back. I kind of want to skip to something. Please bear with me. I'm going to skip to something. The problem. I'm going to skip to this right now on purpose. A brother? Right there. She's been waiting for a very long time. Okay. The problem here is this. The Prophet ﷺ, like our time today, lived in a culture where there was a deep misunderstanding about emotions. The way men were perceived emotions was very, very different than what the Prophet ﷺ himself was displaying to his people. The Prophet ﷺ challenged the ideal of fatherhood. Fatherhood pre-Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, what he brought in the way he demonstrated fatherhood and the emotional connection to children was unprecedented in their society. I'll give an example. Buraydah bin al-Husayb relates that the Prophet ﷺ was giving a sermon, a Friday sermon, when suddenly Hassan and Hussein appeared. The Prophet ﷺ was on the minbar, and all of a sudden his grandchildren, little grandchildren, they start running up to the minbar. And they were tripping on, they had like a long kameez on, and they were tripping and stumbling over their kameez in front of all of the brothers in the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ comes down the minbar, and he goes and he grabs them up. And he starts hugging and kissing them. And then he goes to everyone, I couldn't help myself. I saw them and I couldn't hold it back. I had to go and grab them. Another example. Abu Hurairah narrated that the Prophet ﷺ once came out of his house carrying Hassan and Hussein, one on each shoulder. And he was kissing each one of them. Kissing them. When he reached the people, a man came and said, he remarked, "O Messenger of Allah, you love them?" like this guy thought it was strange. He's like, "You love them?" The Prophet ﷺ says, "Whoever loves them, he loves me, and whoever hates them, hates me." Another man, he came, he asked the Prophet ﷺ, "Do you kiss children? Because we don't kiss children." The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Is it my fault that Allah has snatched mercy away from your heart?" A man came to Medina and said, "Where's that guy that kisses children?" That's how infamous he was known for something that was so strange in their culture. Unfortunately, the Jahiliyyah has come back today. Hugging, playing, kissing with the children. Your Imam, Dr. Shadi, did a sleepover in his girl's bedroom last night. They wanted to have a... Can I share that? I'm sorry. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was beautiful, bro. Literally, the girls, they want to have a sleepover. So he sleeps the whole night and has a sleepover with them. In their room. That's beautiful. That's prophetic. That's love. That's emotion. That's being connected. Something so small, but it's beautiful. It's profound. And so the Prophet ﷺ was recalibrating the societal understanding of what it meant to be a husband, not only a husband, we saw that, but a father too that shows emotion. And unfortunately, many of us have been those fathers, or we are children of the fathers that are like the guy that said, "You kiss children? Because we don't kiss them." So you have to stop that. You have to realize that this is the way the Prophet ﷺ did it. And this is what should be the way you interact with your children. And that's beautiful. Questions, comments on this point? I'm going to go back now. The reason I wanted to bring this one up is because it's impossible for us to continue to talk about emotions until we realize that there was a problem in the... Yes, Shahzad, mashallah.
So, brother, if social media is where the type of issues we have today with these sleepovers with the kids, would that still happen? Where people are...
No, sleepover with his own kids in their room.
Oh.
Okay. I hope everyone understood that. Your Imam didn't have a sleepover with a bunch of kids. Let me do it again. His own daughters in their room wanted to have a pretend sleepover with their dad. That's beautiful. I know Shahzad was like, what the heck? Did everyone else understand it correctly? Yes. Okay. I love you, Shahzad. MashaAllah. Yes, sister. I think the Prophet ﷺ was challenging a misunderstanding of masculinity. Yes, he was challenging a misunderstood. He did set it up though. He did set what it meant to be a man. But he redefined what it meant to be a man as well. And part of that redefinition was showing love, kissing children, carrying his children, saying I love them, and so on and so forth. I think so. There's a lot that comes with that, those words. There's a lot of baggage that comes with that as well. So I wouldn't want to just put sweep the whole thing under one broad thing. Yes, yes. Yes, sister. Okay, I got you. Can you look at your notes on page 7? Okay, what just happened? I just said turn the page. Got it? Page 7. Look at just the top of page 7. Children learn emotional management and understanding by imitating their parents' reactions to emotional changes. Children at a young age naturally idolize their parents, assuming their parents to be their role models. Every outburst of anger, every flustered moment, and every scream is registered as a potential method for dealing with emotions. The Prophet ﷺ said, I am like a father to you. I teach you what you are ignorant of. Look at what I put in bold there. This is for your answer. What's in bold? Some studies suggest that the foundations of emotional intelligence are laid down in the first 4 years of a child's life. First and foremost, a father and a mother will build the emotional intelligence of their child by every interaction that they have with the child. Your frustration, your yelling in traffic, your inability to control yourself and outrages of anger, teach the children from the ages of 1 to 4 how to demonstrate emotions, how to express emotions, and builds their emotional understanding. So up until the age of 4 seems to be the most influential time to teach children how to deal with and handle emotions. And studies also show that the primary person, there are many institutions that deal with our children, but the primary place where children learn emotional intelligence is from the parents. You will either handicap them or you will bless them with a high level of understanding how to recognize emotions. And you see this. Sometimes if you have 2 siblings, one a little older, the older one will sometimes try to discipline the younger one. Right? Like she took something and now my older Madia wants to hit Karima. And we say, Madia, what are you doing? And she says, well, she's not listening to me. And we go, well, you can't hit her. And what is she doing? She's just imitating how our reactions, our emotional responses to when she didn't listen. Understand what I'm saying? Let's give an example now. Can I give an example? Look at emotional management. Right above what you just looked at, page 6, bottom line. Page 6, bottom paragraph. The Prophet ﷺ had, this is a hadith of Anas. Anas was a young boy who grew up with the Prophet ﷺ from a very young age. Treated just like a son of the Prophet ﷺ. He says, the Prophet ﷺ had the best of character. One day he sent me to do something for him. The Prophet ﷺ sent me to go run an errand. So I told him that I will not go play with the kids outside. But in my heart, I knew that I wanted to play with the other kids. He's a little kid. Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So I left the house to do what the Prophet ﷺ asked me, but when I passed by the other kids playing, I stopped and stood there with them as well. The next thing I notice is somebody's hand on the back of my neck, standing behind me, asking me, "Hey Anas, did you go where I asked you to go to?" And Anas said, "Yep, I'm rocking there right now." He's like, "Yep, I'm walking right now. I'm on my way. I'm going." He, in another hadith, says, I lived with the Prophet ﷺ for 10 years. He never said the word, "Lima sana'ta hada?" Why didn't you do this? Or why did you do this? Now, that's profound. But don't you understand how he must have learned emotional intelligence from living in that household? You understand what I'm saying here? How the Prophet ﷺ, as a father to Anas, he never once were like, "Why didn't you do that? Why'd you do that?" Never once. Never once. That's very difficult, I understand. But I want you to see at least how he's demonstrating his emotional composure and management before Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu. I want to move back here if you guys don't mind. Let's back up a bit. In order for us to be emotionally aware, these notes, I think you should place them in section 3, which is on page 4, please. Please go back to emotional awareness, section 3. Okay. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا بِلِسَانِ قَوْمِهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we never sent a prophet except that they spoke the language of a people. What the apparent meaning of this is that whatever language a people spoke, prophets spoke that exact same language. But there's a deeper meaning here. I want you to put this verse down. This is an important verse. Our emotions are communicated cross-culturally differently. Cross-culturally, Pakistani, Indian, Arab, American, white American, black American, Texan American, New Jersey American. Our emotions, frustration, you beep a horn at someone in Texas, it's gonna be beef. You beep a horn here, it's like you're talking. This is how y'all talk to each other. Like, beep, 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 beep. There, you touch the horn, everybody's like, "What's up?" They like showing you like, somebody got the joke. So everybody's holding down there, right? So the point being is, language is very important when we talk about emotional communication. If you marry someone from a completely different culture, there's a learning curve that has to take place, not only for you to communicate in just language, but also for you to understand the language of emotion. So what Allah tells us in the Quran is that every prophet that was sent spoke the language, emotional language too, of the people that he was sent to. It's very important for us to, and what I like to talk about is laughter. So alhamdulillah, I understand multiple languages, okay? One of which is Urdu. But till today, I don't understand jokes in Urdu. And if you learned English, you probably laugh at jokes at work that you don't understand too. Just be laughing, everybody's laughing, okay? The punchline was given, everyone's laughing. I understood every word, but it's not funny to me. Yeah, someone nodded, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Because language doesn't communicate humor. There's more to it. You have to understand the culture. You have to understand body language. You have to understand far more than just a lexical translation of another language. So laughter to me is a sign. The ability to make someone laugh to me is a sign that you truly understand a language enough to communicate with that person. Do you understand why I'm saying that? Because otherwise you don't know enough of the language to really emotionally pass something or even read an emotion. Someone ever crack a joke that was not funny to you from another culture? And you're like, that ain't funny to us. Like, you just offended me right there. But that's not funny. Because in their culture, that's funny. But for me, that's not, we don't crack jokes like that. Right? So the point being here is that all prophets were given deep understanding, hence why sometimes there were so many prophets at one time. And sometimes there were many prophets at one time giving dawah to their individual people, because dawah has to happen through someone who understands the language deeply. Does everyone understand this point? What that brings us to next is, I'm going to move forward actually. Samihni. Listening closely. This is not in your notes. You're going to have to make notes for this. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. The last page. Page 7 and 8. On page 7, the bottom of it, I have a verse of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا يَسْتَجِيبُ الَّذِينَ يَسْمَعُونَ إِنَّمَا يَسْتَجِيبُ الَّذِينَ يَسْمَعُونَ. Allah says, indeed, only those who listen can respond. You can only respond to emotional changes when you start to listen. Listen to what? What people say? Are we talking about listening to what people say? No, why? This is why. Look at this chart. It's on your paper as well. 7% of emotion is communicated through verbal. 38% of emotion is communicated through vocal tone. How are you doing today, honey? I'm doing great. I ain't doing great. Splendid. Splendid. She's not doing splendid. 38%. Like, you know that I always do a little trick here. You good? You good? You good? Come on, y'all from New York, man. Y'all should understand that. I said 3 different things right there. You good? You good? You good? Now, if you're not from here, you just heard you good 3 times. I got another one for you. I sometimes mess this one up. Attah. Attah. And there's one more. I can't get them all. I mess up. That attah is like, you could say like 20 things with that attah. 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 If you understand that language, I said like 3 different things right there. Someone who learned that language just was like, huh? What? Yeah, I'm good. Oh, you good? You want to fight now? Let's go. If they say I'm good, you're like, all right, let's go. Like, wait, I said I'm good. What you saying? So the point being is emotion is complex. It's not just words. It's deeper understanding. You have to learn how to listen to emotion. You have to learn how to listen to emotion. And that's what we see the Prophet ﷺ doing. Now let's go back here. I want you to look at this example. Let's see if I gave this one to you guys. Yes, okay. Page 6, I'm so sorry, it's so skippy. Page 6, number 2, please. Another incident is equally revealing as the one previously mentioned, the one with the camel. In the early years of the city of Medina, the Prophet ﷺ would deliver his Friday sermons leaning against a particular date palm tree. As they became more settled in the city, some of the companions offered a suggestion that a member be built for the Prophet ﷺ to stand upon when addressing the people. The Prophet ﷺ agreed, and the member was built. The day finally came for the Prophet ﷺ to now begin using the member, so he ascended. He then turned towards the people and began to speak. After a short time, the people in the masjid began to hear the sound of someone crying, like a child crying. The crying grew louder and louder, and the people could not figure out where the sound was coming from. The Prophet ﷺ then came down from the minbar and approached the tree, which was now missing the Prophet's closeness, attention, and companionship. He grabbed the tree, he hugged the tree. Physical contact. In the story of the camel, what did the Prophet ﷺ do, Shahzad? Remember when he got to the camel, what did he do? Thank you. Woo. He touched it. He rubbed the camel. He touched the camel. In this example with the tree, what did he do? Shahzad? He hugged the tree. He touched the tree. We'll talk about that in a moment. Very important for emotionally intelligent people to understand the power of touch. The power of touch. And what's so, I'll get there in a moment. He went down, he hugged the tree, held it close to his chest, and it became calm. They say, you know how a child who's cried a lot starts doing that? They say we heard the tree doing that after he started to hold it. But his physical contact had an effect on the emotional state of the tree, of the camel. Physical contact is very, very important. Now let's look back. The Prophet ﷺ said to Salima, when you get done changing, what? Come back and lay close to me. Physical contact. SubhanAllah. So the Prophet ﷺ, he hugged the tree. It became like someone crying. The crying, okay, we read that. He grabbed and hugged the tree, held it close to his chest, trying to control its cry as a child does. The narration continues explaining that the Prophet ﷺ then spoke to the tree, asking if it would like to be moved close to the minbar and remain near to him for the rest of his life, or be uprooted and buried and replanted, and it will be with him in Jannah. The tree chose to be in Jannah with the Prophet ﷺ. So they uprooted the tree, they buried the tree, and this tree will be with the Prophet ﷺ in Jannah. But, do you notice his emotional awareness? And in this one, the miracle, what's the miracle here? What's the miracle in this incident? So the brother said the tree crying and speaking. You know what I think? When the camel won, what was the miracle there? So the ability of the Prophet ﷺ to understand the camel, the ability of the Prophet ﷺ to understand this tree that was in pain, in this example, the Sahaba who were present, their awareness was lifted to the prophetic awareness level. They heard what he would hear. They experienced one moment where they felt what he was normally feeling. What I'm trying to say is the Prophet ﷺ was given by Allah a very high level of emotional intelligence. And in this incident, the miracle is that they were temporarily brought up to his level of emotional intelligence and then returned to their normal level. You understand what I mean by that? Wallahu a'lam. So here, brothers and sisters, I always just point out this. Don't say this. Don't say this. Why don't you just tell me how you feel? No. You have to learn how to understand emotions. The way the Prophet ﷺ learned how to understand emotions. Why don't you just tell me? Read the person. Listen to emotions. I know, Shahzad, I know. I know, bro. You know when I give this halaqah and go back home, my wife is sitting there like, You reading this? Okay. Emotional management. So that's a picture down the street from where I live. No, I'm just joking. Okay, people do actually walk around like that though. They're not in costume. They actually in Texas walk around looking like that. But anyways, so emotional management. One of the other roles that is explained by Imam Ghazali, what did we say the original meaning of aqal was? The original, way back 3 hours ago. To tie something up. One of the reasons the aqal is called aqal is because of its role in controlling human character, human emotions, and human behavior. That's the way the aqal is supposed to work. So Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala, he explains that the aqal is like the rider of the horse on the back of the horse. That the horse is supposed to listen to the aqal. Now, one of the things they say about the army of Genghis Khan was that they were such skilled horsemen that they could ride one horse and manage like 3 others. At the riding one and managing 3 at the same time. The role of emotional intelligence now is that first and foremost role of the aqal is to manage this here. That's intrapersonal emotional understanding. Intra. The other role is now also learning how to manage. Like you walk in the door, Shahzad, you walk in and you notice that you ask how you doing today and the response wasn't where it should have been. So now you have a responsibility. You can just go to your office. You can just go and check out, go online and just watch the highlights and just leave that person to fix their own self. Or you can now attempt to emotionally manage the state and lift it up. You understand what I'm saying? But the difficulty is that first you need to learn how to manage this first. Once you become aware of your own state and you're managing that, only then, you know what they say on the airplane? First, secure your mask around your face, and then secure the mask on the person next to you. They have to tell us such common sense things. But again, you have to first recognize my own emotional state, where I'm at right now. Why am I am I upset from work right now? The boss just said something. Am I walking into the house with baggage from work? You need to know about yourself first, and then now, once you manage yourself, you got on your horse, you got your horse under control. Now you can walk in and say, okay, what's wrong, hon? You okay? And crack a joke, whatever you gotta do out here. I can't give you that much detail. Some things you just gotta learn. Okay, we already went through this. Children learn emotional management and understanding by imitating their parents' reactions and emotional changes. We already discussed that. We discussed the problem that we have. I won't use the term toxic masculinity, but I will say that the Prophet ﷺ was correcting the understanding of what it meant to be a man, and he was redefining that. He was redefining that in his society. Without doubt, that is definitely there. Now, Shahzad, I'm so sorry. Can I keep picking on you? Okay, cool. All right, so Shahzad, we talk about intra. What is the intrapersonal awareness? Which one is that? Yourself, yes, exactly. Now, when it comes to intrapersonal emotional awareness, the Prophet ﷺ was someone who was building emotionality inside men. Building emotionality inside men. Emotion makes you vulnerable. We don't like to be vulnerable. We don't like that. The Prophet ﷺ challenged that uncomfortableness. He said it's okay. Look at this example. Abdurrahman bin Auf once looked up at the Prophet ﷺ, and this was at the death of his granddaughter. He looked up at the Prophet ﷺ, and he saw the Prophet ﷺ crying. And he said, now to us, this question doesn't make sense. Because we live in a society where at least at the death of someone, it's okay to cry. For men. So this question for us, but in their society, even at this point, it was strange. It was strange for a man to cry. So Abdurrahman bin Auf looked up at the tears of the Prophet ﷺ and said, "And you too cry, O Prophet of Allah?" The Prophet ﷺ, with tears in his eyes, looked at Abdurrahman bin Auf and said, "This is mercy from God. These tears, this is not a bad thing. This is mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's okay. It's fine." Redefining. This is one of my favorite ones. Public displaying of emotion. Hassan and Hussein, my two Rayhan. One hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, "These are my two Rayhanatan." He's saying in front of a group of really, really masculine men, "These are my two flowers." Flowers. Subhanallah. Do you understand? Like the display of public emotion, and that's what this in his society. We must be like, two flowers? Like, subhanallah. Oh, that's just an example. I normally tell it's a really funny, if you have little children, this happens all the time. Every sajda is a slide. Every sajda is a slide. They literally, once you go in sajda, it's like, my turn. Slide down. The Prophet ﷺ was once leading the Sahaba in Salah. And the sajda got very long. And Sahaba, after the Salat, they said, "We thought you died. We thought revelation began. What happened? Was there a new revelation?" And the Prophet ﷺ said, "No, Hassan was on my back. And I didn't want to disturb him." What? In front of these men, you just said my grandson was on my back. And I extended the sajda. Why? Because this little boy was on my back. And I wanted him to get off. I didn't want to pull him off. Again, display of public affection, public emotion in front of the Sahaba. Okay, so we talked about this, listening closely. Right? We talked about listening closely. Indeed, only those respond who listen. We talked about this as well. Now, Shahzad, check this out. Why do we see at every chance the Prophet ﷺ is touching those who need emotional attention? Why is the Prophet ﷺ, the camel needs help, he goes, he touches it. The tree needs help, he goes and touches it. Sahaba need help, he touched them. And now they have massage therapy, right? Now we can't go there. Well, maybe you go to the guy, you go to a Turkish masseuse. Dr. Shadi, you been to a Turkish masseuse before?
I've been to one.
You've been one? Ooh, subhanAllah, it's a bit personal, man. They get in there. Khair, inshallah. What do we know about touch? Look at this study. I want to tell you a study. The study was done by... Give me a second. I'll give you the exact place that did the study on touch. Yes, Dr. Keltner, touch communicates distinct emotions. You could look up a paper. There's a research paper called Touch Communicates Distinct Emotions. That's the name of the research paper. And the leading researcher was Dr. Dr. D. Keltner, Keltner, Keltner. They did a study. Let me tell you how the study was set up. A table was set up, and a curtain was put in the middle of the table. A curtain. So the people on one side of the curtain cannot see the people on the other side of the curtain. The people on one side of the curtain were given an emotion list of about 15 emotions. 15 emotions. And the person on the other side of the curtain was given the responsibility that they had to take their with no uncovered arm and put it on the other side of the curtain. That's all. Does everyone understand? The person whose arm is on the other side, they can't see. I cannot see the person in front of me. The person on the other side that's just looking at my arm and can't see me, without any verbal communication, has to communicate the emotion on the paper to me. And I have to guess which emotion they're trying to communicate. Does everyone understand the study? The study was done to show, does touch, can we communicate emotions just through a touch? 48 to 89% accuracy. People understood without any words what emotion was being communicated. That's very profound. That's very profound because this researcher says interpersonal touch appears to be capable of modulating people's compliance. You know what they say about this? When waitresses want to get a higher tip, all they have to do is touch you one time throughout that whole time you ate dinner there. Do you understand what I'm saying? If a waitress touches you one time during the time that they're serving you, studies show their tip will be a little higher. Because of just that one touch. Modulating people's compliance. We simply, look what this researcher said, we simply cannot understand touch. Now, what we do know is oxytocin is released in the brain when someone is touched. When someone is touched, that release happens, which has a deep effect on the person. I want to tell you about the Prophet ﷺ's use of touch. We already looked at a few examples, right? This is one of my favorite examples of the Prophet ﷺ's use of touch, Hadith of Fudala. The Prophet ﷺ has just conquered Mecca. Conquered Mecca. The invading army of the Muslims has now taken over Mecca. The Muslims are donning their armor. They've come in. They've taken over this city. The city has now submitted to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ has taken off his armor. And now the Prophet ﷺ is doing tawaf around the Kaaba. Other Sahaba are doing tawaf. Other people are doing tawaf. The Prophet ﷺ has just conquered Mecca. This hadith is in Bidayah al-Bidayah wal-Nihaya. The Prophet ﷺ is doing tawaf, and someone by the name of Fudala, who hadn't become Muslim, is upset. These Muslims have just taken over. Look how happy they are going around the Kaaba. He's looking at the Prophet ﷺ, no bodyguards, no weapons, peacefully doing tawaf. And Fudala says to himself, I can kill the Prophet ﷺ right now and end all of this. So he's thinking this. And as he's thinking it, the Prophet ﷺ happens to walk past him, doing tawaf. And he says, Ya Fudala. No, he says, is your name Fudala? Yeah, I'm Fudala. He says, Mada tahaddatha fi nafsika al'an. He goes, Ya Fudala, what were you thinking right now? Fudala goes, La shay adhkurullah. He goes, I wasn't thinking nothing, I was doing dhikr. The Prophet ﷺ says, Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. The Prophet ﷺ keeps doing tawaf. Fudala's like, yo, that was crazy, but I can still do it. I can still do it. He comes back around, the Prophet ﷺ comes close to him. He asked him again, what were you thinking right now? He goes, nothing, I was doing dhikr. I was doing dhikr. So he says, then the Prophet ﷺ took his hand and he placed it on my chest. And I felt this coolness come over my entire body, where everything became clear to me. And then he took his hand off my chest. And right then I knew, I'm taking shahada. And he took his shahada right there. he leaves Mecca, going back home. As he's leaving Mecca, there was one girl who he used to meet every time he would come to Mecca. She was sitting on her porch. So as he leaves Mecca, she's like, yo, Fadala, halumma ila al-hadith. Yo, come through, let's talk. Literally, that's what she says. I'm not just adding my ghetto, whatever to it. She says, halumma ila al-hadith. Come through, let's talk. Like, you put your spice on it. No, that's what she said. He goes, Ya'ballah wal Islam. He goes, nah, Allah doesn't like that. Islam doesn't approve of that. And then he starts giving her dawah. And he gives a poem, Law Ra'ayti Muhammadan wa junuda, only if you had seen the armies of Muhammad come through. That one touch, though, completely changed who Fadala was. Touch is powerful. Tiffany Fields has done amazing research. Tiffany Fields, she's a researcher at the Institute of Touch, and she has something profound. I want to read exactly what she says regarding the effect of touch. She says that Tiffany Fields of the Touch Research Institute, I think it's in Tampa, it's in Florida, explains how a message from a loved one can not only, a massage from a loved one can not only ease pain, but soothe depression. Now, what I wanted to highlight here is this. What did the Prophet ﷺ say in a hadith about shaking hands? Tell me one of the effects in the hadith about shaking hands. تذهب الغل. The Prophet ﷺ says, تسافهوا, تسافهوا. Give that, shake hands. Why? تذهب الغل. It takes away hatred. Anyone ever play football or basketball and teammates get in a fight? What does the coach do? Shake hands. Man, no. Shake hands. Okay. What happens after that? Let's go back to the game. We're back. So have you ever experienced that? I've experienced that. Two teammates got in a fight. They make us run laps. After we run laps, all right, shake hands. Hug it out. And they shake hands, and the team goes on. Everything's fine. And literally the Prophet ﷺ says, shake hands. It takes away hatred. Hello, look at these studies, man. These studies are literally telling you exactly what your beloved Prophet ﷺ said about the effect of touch. Now, one of the major problems that happens in our families is the lack of physical touch. There are daughters that don't get hugged by their father. There are spouses, wives that say, he never touches me. I might as well be ghair mahram. Like, there's no benefit of me being a mahram. Because there's no physical contact going on here. But as we study the Prophet ﷺ's life, you see, and I gave many examples in the book, guy. I don't have time to go through all of the examples, but you see example after example after example after example of the Prophet ﷺ being very touchy with those who he loves and being close to them, especially when they need it most emotionally. Questions, comments on this one? Yes. Oh, that's a good question. So the PDA, public display of affection, which is for some cultures like horrible. In other cultures, it ain't that bad. I mean, I remember walking down the street in Rukn ad-Din in Damascus, and the brother showing me around is holding my hand as we walk down the street. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. We were literally walking through Rukn ad-Din, and he's showing me around, and he clasped hand in hand. And I'm like, I mean, you just kissed my cheeks first. And now we holding hands walking through the streets. But it was me coming from this hypersexual society that interprets everything as a sexual move and can't just see the hearts connecting to people other than on a sexual basis. That's how we interpret everything. So your wife might say you matlabi, right? Every time you touch it, gotta go somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't have to be that way. There are examples clear where the Prophet ﷺ didn't always seek something through a touch. He realized that other people just need to be held, just to be hugged, just to cuddle. You know what I'm saying? Cuddle, guys? Dr. Shadi, man, you're going to have a halakha on this, man. Like, seriously, bro. Don't, not online, just in the back room, call all the brothers in, and just school them on the way the Prophet ﷺ was emotionally attached. What did he do? You know what I'm saying? Okay, I have a picture here. We talk about the effect of touch. What did the Prophet ﷺ say about touching the head of a yatim? Subhanallah. Yes? Number one, you get as many reward as the number of hairs on the head. What about the effect of the touch? Yeah? What did you say? More. There's more explicit. Go ahead. Yes. A man once came and complained that his heart was hard. The Prophet ﷺ said, go touch the head of a yatim. You think that you are helping and soothing her through the touch, or that person? The Prophet ﷺ is saying there's something happening inside you through that touch as well. So this person said, my heart is hard. The medicine was go touch a yatim. Go take care of an orphan kid. Go be around. Show love to that orphan child. And that will be the cure for your hard-heartedness. So you think you're helping the yatim, but the yatim that orphan is helping your heart, softening your heart through that touch. But the thing to note was that the Prophet specifically, alayhi salatu wasalam, specifically said, go touch the head. Go touch the head of a yatim. Go touch the head of a yatim. The point here is to understand the power of physical touch, to be close to those that we love, and how effective that is in communicating different feelings and helping the people that we're interacting with. Questions, comments? I think he's right there. He's right there. He's right there. Right here. Yes, question? Yes, go ahead.
How can you explain what meant by hard-hearted? Was it Imam?
No, hard-hearted here means he's not able to feel things. He's not able to cry. He's not able to feel empathy for people. That's what a hard heart is. Nothing, it's just the heart has become very not alive. It doesn't feel things when people are in pain. And I think a lot of times we desensitize our hearts so much through our Facebook feeds and stuff like that. We get used to seeing such graphic images. We get used to seeing such things that our hearts, we build hard hearts through that Facebook feed. And real pain is not differentiated between pain seen on a screen. You know what I'm saying? So I think that definitely hard heart means that he's not able to feel pain for other people. Yes. Subhana, to hug newborn babies. Yes. Yes. Because of the effect of skin-to-skin contact on the child. Subhanallah. What I want you to do is now, with these studies that talk about touch, I need you to look at how the Prophet ﷺ used that and now apply that at home. Your son, your daughter, your wife, they need that. That is extremely important for them to have that connected feeling, to hold a hand. Now, you asked the question about public display. I haven't forgot. We find many examples, and I know this won't fit with every culture, but we do find examples of the Prophet ﷺ's public display of affection. We do find examples. Now, that doesn't mean when you're with your sister and your in-laws, like, you know, that's just awkward. That is different. But, you know, you go off to the cafe, you go to the park, you go for a walk. They're just like, you know, why? No. We see examples of the Prophet ﷺ showing public displays of affection. You know, I'll give you an example. You know, there's one beautiful example that I put in the book where Safiya, the Prophet ﷺ had just married Safiya, and he was leading her to mount the camel. And because the camel was so high, he didn't want her to have to like lift up everything to get on it. So the Prophet ﷺ kneeled down on one knee with one knee raised so she could just step on his knee. And he helped her on, and everyone's watching like, dang. You know, Sahabiyat, like, why don't you do that? You know that's what they said right away. Like, see? You know? So public display, within bounds, obviously within bounds, we have haya. Right? So obviously we live in a culture that has no haya. So they'll do everything publicly. So we have bounds, but small things, holding hands and being close to one another in public. I see examples of that in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? That doesn't mean you have to share it on Facebook and all that. It's for you to. It's not for the world to see. Yes, sister. Shh. I have to be her, then you, sister. Her. One at a time. Subhanallah. But they feel it too. Yes. So I felt up till now. So the sister, I don't know if everyone heard her, but you know, we're talking about the effect of touch on emotion, but we also have to understand that, you know, sound too has not only an audible aspect to it, but an effect, a physical effect in the feeling of what's spoken to us. And I think that's what adds to the hadith that talk about, you know, you can say something like the Prophet ﷺ said, or no, Imam Shafi rahimahullah, he says that the wound of a sword can heal, but the wound of a word can't heal. And words are extremely powerful. And when we talk about emotional abuse, now we're talking about emotional intelligence, right? In my understanding, if you are not emotionally aware, you will either emotionally neglect the people in your life, when you'll be a person who commits emotional neglect, like failing to feed a child, failing to hug a child is emotional neglect, failing to hug your wife, to be close. Also is emotional abuse. I think people who are not emotionally intelligent and following what the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us here, they fall easily into emotional abuse, either advertently, on purpose, or not on purpose, inadvertently. Either way, that anyone who's not connected with the emotions of the people in their family run the risk of emotional neglect, meaning your child, your son, your daughter, your wife needs emotional nourishment and they're not getting it, or runs the even greater problem, which is emotional abuse. Now, I think a lot of us, we understand our spouses pretty well. So when I'm having a bad day, I know what buttons to press to make you have a bad day too. And that's where we fall into emotional abuse. Because I know how to abuse you without touching you. I know how to make you feel bad. Like your brothers, you have a sibling, you know how to make your brother angry. Just one thing, you're having a bad day, you can make your brother have a horrible day by saying one thing. But when we look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, we see that the Prophet ﷺ is using his emotional intelligence to uplift people. See, at the end of the day, guys, emotional intelligence is a tool. It's a tool. You can use it for negative, or you could use it for positive. And that's where we come now to moral intelligence, which is a different thing. Should we take a break or keep going?
So you can go straight to 440, 445.
Okay. Can I get some Moya? Tea? Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments on what we've covered so far? Yes. Subhanallah. One attachment. Interesting. Subhanallah. Sister, that's very profound. And you said the tip is called the Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Let's go back, way back. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. May Allah give you from the water of Hold the Kauthar, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. You remember we learned this about 3 hours ago? Nurun ala nur is the nur of wahi on the nur of the aql. The external light for the aql to see is revelation. Everything we just talked about, emotional intelligence, is one part of intelligence. And that part, as I said before, is the tool by which society, family, and the self is changed. I'm going to say that again. Emotional intelligence is the tool by which you cause change and positive change in other people. Emotional intelligence is not enough to cover the aql of the Prophet ﷺ. We have to talk about moral intelligence, which gives us the direction of change that we want to implement. Do you understand what I mean by that or no? Okay. Let's look at this example here. Okay. Remember this example? Allow me to commit zina? You have to differentiate in this example. You have to understand that the Prophet ﷺ has to transfer what Islam says, what Allah says about zina to this young man's heart. Correct? Now, if he did not have the emotional intelligence necessary, he may have told him, hey, zina is haram. But does that mean that the person is going to bring that inside of themselves? No. Because they lack the emotional intelligence by which to convey that message over. So this is what this is what I see normally. What I find is that some of us have a very high emotional intelligence. We understand how to get things across to people, but we may not actually have a very strong moral intelligence, which is understanding what revelation is saying in this situation to do, or that situation. What does God want from us? What does Allah want from us in this situation? Other people have a very high moral intelligence. They know right from wrong. They know this, they know that. But the ability to now effectively communicate that to someone else is lacking. Do we understand the two sides here, the difference between the two, or no? Someone else want to communicate it to me? Who understands it completely? Yes?
A good example, so you can read people, you can use that to sell cars, to manipulate people, to whatever. But then again, has to be moral compass, how you use that.
Exactly. A salesman has to develop an extremely keen emotional intelligence. A pimp, na'udhu billah, right? They have a very high level of emotional intelligence. But are they using that for good? Not at all. So without the nur ala nur, see, the role of the emotional intelligence in the aql of the Prophet ﷺ was to communicate the moral intelligence. Does everyone understand what I'm saying? The purpose of the emotional intelligence in the aql of the Prophet ﷺ was to transfer the moral intelligence that comes through revelation. The right, the wrong, the good, the bad, this and that. The purpose of all of that aql is so that I can pass that to you. So in and of itself, emotional intelligence can be used by the worst of people and by the best of people. It has to be grounded. Yes. So that's what we're going to get to now. So basically, okay, once you're there now, if you understand that, we can move forward. Which is, the second half of the book that I wrote is regarding this. Moral intelligence framework. It's for my wife. Moral intelligence framework. Okay, I'm going to try to zoom in. Let's see if I can zoom in here. Oh, nope, can't zoom in. I'm going to tell you these if you can't see them. There are 5 capacities in a moral intelligence framework. There are 5 aspects of moral intelligence. Moral compass, which is calibrated to fitrah and prophetic ideals. Moral compass is the first part of moral intelligence. And the moral compass is supposed to be calibrated back to the fitrah and also with prophetic ideals. Is this in the notes at all? No, the notes stop short of moral intelligence. The notes stop short of moral intelligence. Number 2. So what is moral compass calibration? Someone tell me that again. It's calibrating your moral compass to number 1, fitrah. What is fitrah? That natural disposition in a human being, and to the prophetic ideals. Now, what we find today is moral compasses being calibrated to societal ideals. Today, moral compasses of our children are calibrated to societal ideals, not prophetic ideals. And what I find is we all start to operate with 2 compasses. We have a college campus compass, where I operate on the moral compass of the professor, and I have a masjid moral compass. So when I'm in the masjid, I hold up my moral compass of prophet, and I go, yeah, that all makes sense according to this compass. And then when I'm in the university on campus, I hold up my moral compass of the university, and go, yes, that's plausible in this environment. The ideal is to have one moral compass by which you've now understood good and wrong in your aql, you understand that your moral compass is calibrated to fitrah and prophetic ideals. Turn that light off one more time, please. Number 2, moral commitment, istiqamah. So once you know the ideals, that is just knowing what's right and wrong. The next part of it is actually doing what's right and living in accordance to that. That is called moral commitment and developing moral commitment. What we also call istiqamah, al-i'tisam, to hold on to it. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Abdu alayha bil nawajis." Hold on to it with your molars. Just hold on to it. So after I understand what is right, after I understand what is wrong, now since I've already come to the conclusion that this is haqq, this is right, absolutely right, and I don't mean absolutely in other than absolutes. It is absolutely haqq. And I know that, now I hold on to it. And it becomes something that I'm always using this compass to navigate myself around. Number 3, moral sensitivity, or the ability to recognize when something is wrong. Okay. Hadith Wabisa. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm going to change this page. Give me 1 second. Please bear with me, I'm going to go back. A man by the name of Wabisa, he once went to the Prophet ﷺ. And as he walked up to the Prophet ﷺ, the Rasul ﷺ, he said to him, "Ji'ta tas'al anil bir wal itham." You came to ask me about good and evil, didn't you? And Wabisa goes, yes, that's why I came. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-birru matma'anna ilayhi an-nafs." Righteousness is that which the heart is tranquil with. "Wal-ithmu ma haka fi sadrik." And ithm is that which is not comfortable inside the heart. وَإِنْ افتاك النَّاسِ, even when it fits the letter of the law. Sin is that which doesn't feel right, even when it's within the letter of the law. Now, I have a question for you. What did, in this hadith, what was made the determinant, what was made the criterion for determining right from wrong? Huh? The heart. The Prophet ﷺ said, good is that which is peaceful in your heart, and evil is that which doesn't feel good in the heart. Correct? Now here's a question. Do you guys remember this guy, this Sahabi radiallahu anh? Oh wow, we've done so much. Yes. Do you remember this Sahabi? Can you imagine the Prophet ﷺ telling this Sahabi, "Istafti qalbak," ask your heart? Can you imagine him saying that to him? So here's my question. What is the difference between Wabisa and this young boy? I'm giving you a hint. Yes. It's this. Once the moral compass has been calibrated, now you can ask the heart, and the heart will tell you where khair is, the heart will tell you where shar is. That's after the calibration of it though. Wabisa is an elder Sahabi who spent a lot of time around the Prophet ﷺ. His moral compass has been calibrated. So when he comes and asks, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Ya Wabisa, why are you asking me this question? Ask your heart." But when this young man comes, he doesn't say, "Oh son, just ask your heart." No, because the moral compass has not been calibrated yet. So, moral sensitivity, that's number 3, right? Right? Moral sensitivity is when you're able to feel that this action is a bit away from. Your moral sensitivity is when you're able to realize that this action is going off true north. You know what I'm saying? Like, it may not be completely that way, but you're able to sense that it's going off of the mark of what's correct. So that, and part of that, by the way, we use a word for that called haya. I know normally haya we use as modesty, but it doesn't completely encompass. There's a haya between you and yourself. There's a haya between you and the community. And there's a haya between you and Allah. And when your heart knows something is wrong, that's moral sensitivity. And that's your heart saying, wait, this is not correct. And that's the ability to recognize when something is wrong. So 3 things so far. Got it? Should we go to the next one? Yes. Interesting. The question is good and evil, but I assume, in my reading of it, that he's asking of what is, the evil is sinful, and the good is rewarding. So in my understanding, I see the overlap between the two, but perhaps you could separate the two. But even then, if a person's moral compass is not calibrated, you can't sit there and ask your heart. You cannot ask your heart. Your heart is not calibrated to good and bad. So if you ask it, it will give you wrong directions. Right? So, go ahead. Okay, so, but remember, the moral compass is supposed to be calibrated to the revelation. So my moral compass may tell me such and such thing is not so bad, but we have to put that on this litmus test or the framework of revelation. My moral compass should be a mirror of revelation. Yes. Yeah, Sharia, what we have of Sharia, yes. 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 Definitely, definitely.
The second hadith, is that an indication of halal and haram?
So that's the part of the hadith that becomes tricky. Sister, what he brought up was the hadith says even if you get the letter of the law confirmation, even if the letter of the law says halal and your heart now tells you no, even then you staying away from it is supposed to happen. So here we see, like, I feel like in this example, the moral compass, the true north of the moral compass is even truer than just the letter of the law. The letter of the law is, generally speaking, this is north, this direction. North is this way. And even if people tell you, yeah, you're still going north, you go, no, my heart, this, even inside the law, this is off the mark of my heart. It's a good point you bring up. It's a good point. The way I looked at it is that our goal is to make our heart calibrated to the Sharia of what is correct, what is incorrect. Once I've calibrated that heart, then now I operate with that as my moral compass. Even if I get fatwas and this and that, I got the spirit of the law also going with me. Now, I'm not going to go completely against the letter of the law, but my heart should keep me away from even the iffy matters. So someone may say, hey, this is technically halal. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to stay away from it just because staying away from it is even better. Now that's the heart guiding you instead of the letter of the law guiding you. And that's where we actually want to be at. Yes, sister? We're just open for questions now. I'm not able to finish the moral intelligence aspect. I guess you guys are going to have to buy the book now. Oh man. So let's open up the floor for the next few questions, inshallah. Yes? Yes. Close that door, please. Thank you. Yes. Good and bad. Interesting. Good point. And that's similar to what you're saying, right? Interesting points. I don't have a concrete answer for it. Allahu a'lam. Yes, all the way in the back. Yes, sister? 100%, sister. Jazakallahu khair. I think that's the place to end today's discussion, guys. I do have a flight to catch. It's a 7 o'clock flight out of Philadelphia, so I have to run. Please forgive me, but I'm gonna have to leave right now, inshallah. And I thank you all for coming out. I think this was a beautiful, beautiful gathering. My intention was to increase your love for the Prophet ﷺ, your appreciation for the intelligence of the Prophet ﷺ, and my intention was for us to connect with our loved ones emotionally as well, but understand it is a sunnah of our Prophet to connect emotionally, inshallah ta'ala. If anyone wants to reach out, please, Dr. Shadi has my contact information, so please reach out to him, inshallah, and I'm sure he'll be sharing the book when it's ready to go, inshallah.
Well, we're gonna
do another program.
Well, we're gonna have a part 2, inshallah, once the book comes out, and then we'll have another such session like this when the book comes out, and then everyone could actually have the book, and it has all these stories in it.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. There's more. I couldn't say everything that's in the book.
Yeah. So inshallah, so maybe that'll be in what, maybe a couple months.
2 weeks.
2 months, so in a couple months we'll be having part 2 of this. Jazakumullah khairan. Unfortunately, Sheikh has a flight to catch, so he doesn't want to spend too much time. So it was very quick in and out visit. But Jazakumullah khairan, thank you so much for coming, and hopefully it's not the last time. Look forward to the next one. Jazakumullah khairan.
Let's make a dua. Let's make a dua. Let's make a quick dua, please. So we have to finish with the dua, and then inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Allahumma inna nas'aluka hubbak wa hubba man yuhibbuk wa hubba amalin yuqarribuna ila hubbika ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, we ask you to give us true understanding of your deen, Ya Allah. We ask you to guide us to the straight path, Ya Allah. We ask you to guide our moral compasses and give us the ability to stay committed to that moral compass, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, we ask you to give us the ability to emulate our beloved Prophet ﷺ and how he emotionally connected to all of those around him, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, give us the ability to look deeply in those who love us and that we love, and to nourish them emotionally, Ya Allah. Give us the ability to follow this blessed sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ of having empathy for the entire creation, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, whatever shortcomings we have, Ya Allah, we turn to you. We turn to you and ask you to clean our hearts, Ya Allah. We turn to and ask you to clean our hearts, Ya Allah. Forgive our sins, Ya Rabbil Alameen, and make us better today than we were yesterday, and make us better tomorrow than we are today. أقول قولي هذا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاك الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Okay, let's move it, right? Yep, got it. Let me just make sure the jacket is there. All I need are these books and my